Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, my colleague Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And today we are talking about customer contracts, terms and conditions, things that govern a relationship between you and your customer client. Some folks, might just try to do something with a handshake, but that can create all kinds of issues. So what are some things that people should be thinking about, Russell, when selling their services, whether it's a customer, client, or whatever you may call them?
Yeah, well, as we talk a lot, on this program, that there are oftentimes gaps in understanding, and we want to fill them, and we don't want to leave them up to chance or up to a court or a jury to figure out what was meant or what this could be. We want to try to prescribe as much clarity as we can in this situation. And one of the scenarios where that comes up a lot is with customers. And obviously, like, depending on the goods or services that you're selling, it might not be practical or efficient to have terms and conditions on everything you do. But at some point, when those products and services become a substantial enough cost to the customer, you want to have terms in place, and you want to know whether, and it can be as simple as, like, you give somebody a quote and there's terms and conditions, and they sign off when they agree to hire you. They sign off on it, and it doesn't have to be, it can be a one-page front and back kind of thing. It doesn't have to be this heavy-duty 20-page legal contract. It's still going to be a contract, but it can be simple and easily understood. And the point really is that things happen in the conduct of commerce, and we want to have terms and explanations and rules for how we're going to deal with these things when they come up.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think a lot of people think about contracts as being cumbersome and maybe slowing down the sales process or interfering with that client relationship. But really, it's helpful to the relationship so that everyone's on the same page. Everyone has a clear understanding. If there's anything that someone's concerned about or they're not going to agree with, you can get that figured out up front. So that everyone's on the same page. And the last thing you want to be doing is fighting with your client later. But if you have to, it'd be helpful if, and probably the fight will go better, not only just obviously in court if you get us involved, but even if you go to the client and you say, well, you signed off on this, you signed off on the scope, or you signed off on these parameters, or, this recourse if this happened. And, we talked about this, and you actually have something. It's a lot easier to have those conversations and potentially avoid litigation and having to get us involved, because it might cause the client to say, oh yeah, I remember that. Memories are short sometimes, especially when people want something different to happen. So it's good to have it written down.
And if you do have to get lawyers involved, better to have something helpful in writing to make Exhibit A. And look, this is what we agreed to, and we've got to hold the other side to this commercially reasonable, agreed upon term. Like, it's here in black and white, and we've got to everyone has to abide by it. So the other thing I wanted to say about this is, even when you have the right forms, you have the right provisions, you've done all that work at the the corporate level, you got to make sure that people use these forms and they're not circumventing the process. So, it's not just having the right document, the right form, the right contract to use. It's making sure that the process gets followed and it's a regimented part of operations, so that, hey, we did this work, we got this right document in place, let's use it, and let's use it every time.
Yeah, I think sometimes clients are also afraid that the documents may get used against them, and they're like, well, maybe the ambiguity will weigh in my favor. And to that, I would say, well, that's a good reason to be thoughtful about the contract up front, so that you know what's in it and you're okay with it as well. Because the ambiguity, yes, it can cut both ways. If people aren't really sure and they're not on the same page, maybe it goes in your favor, but why leave it up to chance, and why create that situation for yourself? So
manage out as many variables as you can. I mean, that's always a good business practice, I think.
Thanks, Russell. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.